Birds scream and scatter into the blood-red sky. Something is coming. No, two things are coming. From the north, the king of the late Cretaceous, Tyrannosaurus rex, emerges from the mist. Muscles like coiled steel, eyes sharp with cold calculation, and a roar that echoes through the forest like thunder. But from the south, a new challenger appears. A shadow even longer, leaner. Giganotosaurus, the southern giant. A predator not of brute force, but of relentless precision. It moves like a phantom, a ghost from the land of Titans. The blood moon rises above them, and for the first time in 66 million years, these two apex predators are about to clash. But before we crown a winner in this prehistoric showdown, let's step back. Because this isn't just about who bites harder. This is about two kings evolved in different worlds, forged by different battles. To know who would win, we have to know who they truly were. So, who are these monsters? And what happens when evolution's two greatest killers meet under a blood-red sky? Let's dive in. T-Rex. He wasn't just big. He was absurdly, stupidly big. Over 40 feet long, 8 tons of muscle, and a bite force that could crush a car like a soda can. He lived in what is now North America, dominating the top of the food chain like a prehistoric mafia boss. He didn't run. He didn't need to. Anything he hunted died. Anything he saw ran. But here's the thing. For all his bulk, T-Rex had shockingly good senses. His vision? Better than a modern-day eagle. His smell? Insane! Some scientists say he could sniff out a carcass from miles away. And then there were the teeth. Imagine banana-sized steak knives, serrated. Dozens of them. Each bite didn't just pierce. It exploded bone and flesh. But then there's Giganotosaurus. Slightly longer than T-Rex, but leaner, lighter. More like a deadly sprinter than a heavyweight boxer. He ruled the southern lands, what is now Argentina, millions of years before T-Rex was even born. His bite wasn't as powerful, but it didn't need to be. Because Giga played a different game. He didn't crush. He slashed. Rows of sharp, blade-like teeth designed to cut arteries, rip open organs, and wear down his prey over time. Imagine T-Rex as a tank, and Giganotosaurus as a razor-sharp Ferrari with teeth. Different styles, different weapons, same goal: survival. Now, let's set the scene. The two predators stand across from each other. Dust swirls. The moon glows red overhead. T-Rex lowers his head, eyes locked on his rival. Giganotosaurus circles, waiting for an opening. But neither moves, not yet. Because each instinctively knows, one wrong move and it's over. These aren't brainless monsters. They're strategic, smart, calculating. And soon, they'll explode into violence. But not yet. Because to understand the war, we need to understand the weapons. And that's where we're headed next. Don't blink. T-Rex lowers his head even further, eyes locked onto Giganotosaurus. The air is thick with the scent of blood and dust. Giga circles slowly, each step deliberate, like a patient hunter waiting for his moment. This is no longer a battle of brute strength. This is a duel of biological weapons, forged by millions of years of merciless evolution. Let's start with the scariest part. The teeth. Tito. Rex didn't just have big teeth, he had absolute killing machines in his mouth. Up to 30 centimeters long, serrated on both sides, and slightly rounded in shape to withstand massive pressure. Scientists estimate the bite force of T-Rex reached 6 tons, 3 times stronger than today's saltwater crocodile. One bite could crush the thigh bone of another dinosaur like snapping a popsicle stick. More importantly, those teeth weren't just built to kill. They were built to destroy. T-Rex didn't need to kill quickly. It only needed to bite once and let the victim bleed to death. And Giganotosaurus? His mouth was filled with razor-sharp, thinner, longer teeth, designed not to crush, but to slice. Giga's bite wouldn't shatter bones, but it could rip through flesh like a scalpel. A well-placed bite to the neck or belly could cause catastrophic bleeding. Giga's fighting style was more like a samurai swordsman, fast, precise, deadly. T-Rex was like an ancient war machine, crashing into its prey and obliterating everything in its path. But teeth aren't everything. Let's talk about skulls and bite mechanics. T-Rex had an incredibly thick skull, capable of absorbing powerful impacts. Its skull structure was like a block of biological concrete, protecting it from injury during head-on assaults. That gave it confidence to attack straight on without fear of self-damage. Giganotosaurus, on the other hand, had a longer but weaker skull. Its structure was more like a high-speed weapon, great for quick strikes, but not built for prolonged head-to-head collisions. That forced Giga to fight hit-and-run style, targeting weak spots instead of going full force. Now we look at legs and speed. Many think T-Rex was slow, but research shows it could reach speeds of 20 to 25 km/h, fast enough to chase most prey of its time. Its sturdy build, large feet, and long counterbalancing tail made it very stable in close combat. Giganotosaurus had longer legs, a lighter body, and a sleeker gait. It was likely faster, maybe hitting 30 km/h, but less stable in prolonged combat. In short, Giga had better mobility, but T-Rex had superior balance and staying power. Then there's something most people ignore: the brain. T-Rex had a relatively large brain, especially for its body size. Studies suggest it had well-developed regions for smell, vision, and spatial awareness. Giganotosaurus had a smaller, simpler brain. That doesn't mean it was dumb, but it likely wasn't as quick-thinking or reactive as T-Rex. In other words, if this fight dragged on, T-Rex could read his opponent better and adapt his strategy mid-battle. So let's put it all together. T-Rex had the stronger bite, better teeth for destruction, tougher skull, greater intelligence, and more stability in close-range combat. Giganotosaurus was faster, had sharper slicing teeth, more agility, and was built for hit-and-run tactics. Bleed the enemy out slowly. This isn't a one-sided fight. It's strength versus speed, crushing power versus cutting finesse, endurance versus agility. Under the blood moon, the two monsters remain still, reading each other's movements. One wrong step means death. And then, in a heartbeat of silence, Giganotosaurus lunges forward. Giganotosaurus charged like an arrow shot from the shadows, jaws wide open, ready to shred whatever lay in front of him. He struck T-Rex in the side, slashing at the belly with teeth sharp as surgical blades. Flesh tore, blood splattered. But T-Rex didn't retreat. He twisted like a living boulder, opened his mouth, and countered with a bite aimed at Giga's neck. The bite only grazed, but it was enough to force his rival back a few steps. The two beasts roared, a sound that shook the entire forest like a thunderclap at high noon. T-Rex didn't wait. He lunged forward, head low, ramming into Giganotosaurus's chest like a hurricane of flesh and bone. Giga staggered, trying to keep balance, but the impact pushed him back. The battle was no longer about precise bites. It had become a primal wrestling match for survival. Each swing of the head, each snap of the jaws, every step that slammed the ground carried the weight of life and death. Giga tried to strike the sides of T-Rex's neck, carving deep gashes that made blood drip onto the ground. But T-Rex didn't stop. He bit into Giga's hind leg, pulling hard, making his opponent stagger. A roar rang out, this time from Giganotosaurus, filled with both pain and rage. He leaped backward, keeping distance, blood running from his leg. T-Rex roared again. His eyes weren't red, but the look in them was cold as steel. He stepped forward slowly, each movement like counting down his enemy's final moments. Giga panted. He knew he was bleeding out. The hit-and-run strategy was no longer working. The fight had turned into close combat, where T-Rex ruled supreme. But Giganotosaurus didn't give up. He charged again, this time aiming for T-Rex's eyes. A claw slash, then a side bite across the face. T-Rex pulled back for the first time. He hissed. One side of his mouth was torn. But then, like a machine pre-programmed for war, he turned and bit into Giga's neck. Solid hit. His teeth clamped down like an iron trap. Giga thrashed, kicked, tail whipping wildly. But it was too late. A crack echoed, bones breaking. Giga collapsed, strength gone. T-Rex breathed heavily, blood running from his face, but he remained standing. He looked up at the sky, where the blood moon drifted silently overhead. The battle was over. But wait, what if Giganotosaurus wasn't alone? What if a third predator was lurking in the shadows? T-Rex still stood tall, breathing heavily. Beneath his feet, Giganotosaurus lay motionless, blood soaking the ground. The battle seemed over, but the jungle wasn't silent the way it should have been. Birds had gone quiet. The wind no longer rustled the trees. Time itself seemed to freeze. Then, in that still moment, T-Rex froze. A faint sound like wind, but it wasn't coming from the front. He turned. His sharp eyes scanned the darkness. And from the shadows, another predator stepped forward. Huge, carnivorous, but not T-Rex, not Giga. This was Maposaurus, a close cousin of Giganotosaurus, known to hunt in packs, cunning and relentless. And he wasn't alone. In the shadows, two more emerged, silently forming a triangle around the wounded king. T-Rex was no longer the hunter. He was now a lone warrior, bloodied and surrounded by enemies who moved like ancient wolves. Maposaurus wasn't stronger than T-Rex in a one-on-one. But three working together, even the mightiest bite in history might not save him. They circled him slowly. No roars, no rush. This wasn't a show. It was a hunt. T-Rex growled, this time with caution. He backed up, tail low to stabilize. One Maposaurus lunged, biting at his leg, but was shoved back by a sharp counter headbutt. Blood splattered again. But now, it was from both sides. T-Rex twisted, biting one attacker's shoulder, only to be slashed across the back by another leaping in from behind. Pain roared through his body. He spun wildly, trapped in the ring. But the Maposaurus pack left no opening. They attacked in turn, probing his defense. Neck, legs, hips, tail, all targets. One predator against a trio with coordinated tactics. T-Rex began to falter, but he didn't yield. With sudden fury, he lunged at the center attacker, clamped down with his full strength, and shattered its jaw in an instant. A scream echoed through the jungle. The wounded Maposaurus fell, twitching. The other two paused. T-Rex gasped for breath, blood pouring down his face, but fire still burned in his eyes. The jungle held its breath. Could he survive the two remaining hunters? Or was there a fourth? Was this truly just a trio? Or was there an entire pack waiting in the dark, ready to turn the legendary predator into the final prey? The two remaining Maposaurus changed tactics. They didn't rush in. Instead, they backed off, circling wider, as if waiting for something. T-Rex, blood streaming from his wounds, still stood firm. He didn't retreat. He didn't fall. But his eyes shifted toward the deeper darkness of the jungle. Then, from that shadow, two more shapes emerged. There was no doubt anymore. This wasn't a random ambush. This was an organized hunt. A full pack of Maposaurus had arrived. T-Rex was surrounded by 5 predators, one legend versus a whole unit. The sky seemed darker. The blood moon vanished behind black clouds. The wind returned, howling across the dead jungle. T-Rex roared one final time. Not a threat, but a declaration of survival. Then all 5 Maposaurus lunged at once. One bit his leg, another slashed his flank. One leaped onto his back. Blood sprayed across the trees, but T-Rex didn't fall. He spun like a storm, swinging his tail, snapping wildly, crushing one underfoot, biting another with brutal force. But there were too many, and too fast. Amid the chaos, a deadly bite to the neck made T-Rex stagger. He retaliated, shattering an opponent's jaw. But the blood wouldn't stop. Each step grew heavier. His once steely eyes began to dim. Still, he refused to collapse. With every ounce of strength left, he turned and crushed another Maposaurus's neck, spraying blood into the air. But the price was a slash that cut deep into his ribs, puncturing a lung. T-Rex let out one more roar. Then he dropped to his knees. No growl, no fury. Just a dying titan, soaked in blood and wounds. The Maposaurus pack stood around him. Strangely, they didn't finish him off. They only watched. From up close, as if recognizing he was no longer prey, but a legend. One by one, they turned and disappeared into the shadows. Left alone in the blood-soaked forest stood T-Rex, wounded but alive. The question remains, would he die from his wounds or crawl away to hunt once more? We'll never know for sure. But one thing is certain, T-Rex did not fall as a victim. He stood as the last warrior of the Cretaceous. What do you think? Would the outcome be different if Spinosaurus faced him next? Leave a comment below and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next prehistoric battle.